It's Spock, Jim, but not as we know him.
Either the well was very deep, or she fell very slowly. For she had plenty of time as she went down to wonder what was going to happen next.
Shuttle 5 approaching the anomaly.
I've lost them.
Spock, it's me.
Finally, we get to see us some Spock. 7 episodes in, although he is acting rather crazy. Hi, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel, where I talk about all things geeky and pop culture that I like, including doing weekly reviews of Star Trek Discovery. The episode actually starts, it actually starts with yet another voiceover, but I'm tired of moaning about starting episodes with voiceovers, so other than this, I'm not even going to mention it this week, just going to forget it's there. But other than that, it starts with them still at Kaminar, which is nice. It addresses a little criticism I had of the end of last week, where I suggested that they might be just running off and leaving them to it. On Kaminar, they've massively upheaved this species and this ecosystem and everything on this planet, the whole social order on this planet. Are they just going to run away and not deal with their consequences? Well, they're still there, so maybe they're doing something. Although they are kind of still there, mostly for their own ends, to study the Red Angel phenomenon, so maybe they're not. But look, maybe they're multitasking, that's the word I meant. We see Burnham having a discussion with Pike and requesting some personal leave so that she can go and find Spock before Section 31 does. He grants this, and off she goes. Which does lead to some really good interactions between Pike and Tyler near the top of this episode. There's been this adversarial relationship building between the two of them. Pike really does not like Tyler, and just fair enough, because since he came onto the ship, Tyler has just been since he joined Section 31 and came back onto Discovery, Tyler's just been an arsehole, basically. He's been a moody, weird, and he's just not been nice. And Pike hasn't particularly liked him, and to be honest, I don't blame him. I don't like Tyler at the moment either. Saying that, this new direction of his has got some, dramatic potential, as we will see in this episode. It just seems to have come out of nowhere. I don't really understand why Tyler's had this massive personality change since he joined Section 31. Maybe, as I said in a previous review, it'll be explained. Who knows? But that's the state we're in. And we get some really nice sort of jarring and of the two of them on the bridge of the Discovery here, including some absolutely brilliant lines from Pike, like the chair outranks the badge, when Tyler arrogantly throws his badge at him and goes, "There's your..." I can't even remember what he says. He doesn't have the good lines. Pike definitely has the good lines here. But it's a great interaction between the two of them, and there's lots of great moments throughout this episode where the two of them sort of butts heads, and that's some good character drama there. And this wonderful adversarial tension that they've got going carries over into their away mission to go and explore and send a probe into this temporal anomaly rift that has appeared. I think the time rift plotline is also really well used to add to that tension and add to the character drama, as all good main plot lines should be. They shouldn't just be there to be, "Oh, that's a clever plotline." They should be there to enhance the character drama, because what is drama if not about the characters? So, and this does that really well as advancing the various plot story arc threads throughout the episode. So within the time rift, you get that one moment that I thought was really good, where Pike looks back into the back of the shuttlecraft and he sees a future echo from, because time is a bit all jumbled up, of him seemingly shooting Tyler. So he has it in his head that something's, Tyler's going to do something and he's going to be forced to shoot him. And I love the subtlety that Anson Mount plays with this. The sort of slight facial expressions without really saying anything were great. Maybe he had a lot of experience of facial expressions without saying anything in the Inhumans, where he couldn't speak. But the least said about that TV show, I think, the better. He's just so wonderfully subtle with it as well. It's just a slight facial expression change, a very slight tweak, because he already distrusts Tyler, but now he really distrusts Tyler. But it's very subtle in the way that he shows that across. So brilliant acting from Anson Mount there. And then that's all turned on its head later when we actually get to that point in the timeline that he was seeing a future echo of, because it turns out that actually he wasn't shooting at Tyler, he was shooting at something attacking Tyler. And that's the sort of turning point in their relationship, because up until that point, the tension's been ramping up between them, the adversarial nature's been ramping up between them, it's just been getting worse and worse, and that echo, the future echo, sort of added to that. And then here was the turning point, where actually we start to see him not fully trust Tyler, but start to have a sort of slight more respect for him, and a little bit more trust, but still not fully all the way. And so it was nice to see that story arc over the episode. I think that was really well paced out, and really well, they used the plot of the episode to advance that really well. And it was just a nice thread and arc throughout the whole episode. Because at the end, they end up sort of begrudgingly, sort of not agreeing with each other, but going, look, admitting their faults to each other. Look, I shouldn't have done this. Yes, I agree. You were right when you said I did that for that reason. And, you know, it looks like they might have a more constructive relationship going forward. Which is why I think it was really important that they slowly built up this adversarial relationship. Pike didn't really like Tyler from the moment he met him. But in terms of us as the audience and portraying that, he's been letting it more and more slip over the last few episodes. And so that tension has been building between the two of them. Because Pike hasn't wanted Tyler on the ship. He's there against Pike's will. And so there's this been sort of tug of war of power between the two of them. And it's been slowly building to this point. And if it hadn't have done that over several episodes, I don't think it would have been as impactful when they have that arc over this episode to get to the point at the end where they're a bit more, you know, willing to accept each other. So the other thing that happens in the Time Rift is they are attacked by their own probe. They send a probe in, it comes back, it attacks them, it has tentacles. What is going on? Apparently it's from 500 years in the future. It's gone away, somebody's modified it, it's come back again. Who's modified it? Is it Borg? Is it someone else? Is it someone we never met before? Who knows? But it's a very interesting thread and a very interesting tease for what might be to come. I've said before that the time travel stuff worries me a little, but I love time travel generally. It just worries me when they use it to retcon stuff. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it can't. It just sometimes gets a bit messy if it's more than just one episode. But I do like elements like this where, you know, causality loops and paradoxes and things, those kind of plots do interest me. So I'm kind of half interested in seeing where this goes and half slightly worried. But I liked the probe element. And then, of course, it infects while trying to download the database from Discovery. It ends up uploading itself to, I'm not sure, the android character, which is another good setup for something which is inevitably coming down the line. So I'm very interested. They've set up some nice things in this episode, which I'm very interested to see paid off later on, hopefully. This is a good episode for setting up and doing the more serialized stuff, because I've praised episodes where they've been more self-contained. This episode, while it has its self-contained element, has slightly more of the serialized elements as well. So it's really good to see them doing that well here and leaving us wanting more, leaving me at least wanting more and wanting to find out what happens next with these. There's another big moment of that coming up which we'll talk about right at the end. You probably know what I'm going to say, but I will leave it to the end as well, as that's where it appeared in the episode. But overall, some very exciting things, I think, coming up in the next few episodes. Now that that android is infected, I don't know where that's going to go. There's a few theories floating around. I've seen that she becomes the computer, the advanced AI computer of the Discovery that we saw in the short treks Calypso, and maybe this has something to do with that. Lending weight to that might be the IMDb description of the character at the moment, because the actress is listed as playing, I forget, is it Arim? Something like that. That's the character's name. The actress is listed as playing Arim and Arim 2.0. So that's quite a big clue at how this is going to affect this android. And then, of course, we get the other story thread, the big one, Spock. He's back. We've been waiting a while for this, and it took a little bit of the episode to actually reach him. The first part of the whole Spock storyline after Burnham left the ship, I felt dragged a little bit. They lingered a bit too much on the flashbacks, I think. It just kind of dragged those scenes out a little bit, and I just wanted it to move along a bit quicker. But once it did, we got some great stuff. The actor playing Spock, who I've forgotten the name of, did a good job. I mean, we haven't really seen him as the Spock we know yet. He's still very much got an affected mind of some kind and is in a bit of a delusional, deranged state. So we haven't really got to see him as Spock yet. But I think he did a good job of what he was given to do in this episode, and I'm relatively optimistic with him. We also got some great stuff from Mia Kirshner, who plays Amanda, Spock's mother. I think we're getting some really interesting stuff from her every time she appears. She's a really great actress, and she's bringing this kind of steely determination to the role. We never really saw much from Spock's mother in previous iterations of Trek. She was always kind of this silent or very quiet character standing next to Sarek or around Sarek. And, we didn't really see too much from her, maybe a little bit in the movies. But here we get a real sense of her character, of her determination, of her steely determination to protect her family. And I love her confrontation with Sarek in this, that line she has, "Try again, husband." But that was great. All very good stuff, and the stuff between her and Michael was good as well. Sarek as well, when he was talking about how he didn't want to lose both his children on the same day, when he was explaining the logic of handing Spock over, which I think it was so Vulcan and so not at the same time, because he was using logic, but you could see him fighting that little glimmer of emotion in there. There was a little crack in his throat when he was saying that, and you could tell there was, he was using all his Vulcan techniques to suppress that emotion that he was feeling there, and the protection he felt towards his, son and adopted daughter. And so great acting from that actor there as well. The Section 31 bit of the story, though, I felt was a little bit contrived and was kind of just there in order to remove Spock from Vulcan but not have him in custody. Because as it was, there was no reason to, if you wanted to carry on hiding, there was no reason to leave that cave. That cave was the perfect place to hide him, because other psychic, people on the planet couldn't, send whatever Sarek said about the cave protecting from psychic communication or whatever. It's like picking up on thoughts and things like that telepathic races have. So it made sense to just keep him there. So why would Burnham remove him? Well, she'd only remove him if she was going to hand him in, presumably. So therefore, but the plot clearly didn't want him in custody past this episode. So the Section 31 section kind of felt like it was just there in order to get him off the planet, but then he'll break out straight away from there, and then he's where it just felt like it was just there for the sake of moving Spock around rather than really serving any purpose. But while we were there, we did get some more lovely stuff between Burnham and Empress Georgiou, which is always great because those two actors seem to have a really great chemistry. They work well together, and it's always kind of a delight seeing them interact. And it's, and teasing out and Michelle Yeoh's character, what her intentions actually are. It's still very intriguing, because how much of her actions are because she actually cares for Burnham, because we've definitely had hints in that direction, but also how much of it is just manipulating everyone to get into a position of power. Both those arguments have weight, and both of them, she seems to be doing both at once, but how much of each one? It's very intriguing, and I'd like to see how far it goes. Will she end up betraying? Will we get to a point where Burnham does trust her and she betrays her? Or will we get to a point where Burnham trusts her and she honours that trust and we see it paid off? Interesting. With the Section 31 TV series, apparently in the works, and with Michelle Yeoh as a lead apparently in that, or at least rumoured to be, I suspect they will go more down the trying to humanise her route, because if you're going to have her as a main character in a spin-off series, you're going to kind of want it to be, you're not going to want to hate her with an absolute passion. So I reckon they're probably going to go down the more slight redeeming her, but keeping her edge, if you see what I mean. And that's probably why we're getting these scenes between her and Burnham, which is fine by me because I like these scenes. They work really well. We also find out from Giorgio that the captain of this Section 31 ship was somehow involved in Burnham's parents' death. On a more wider scale, was Section 31 involved in her death, or was it just that captain? Maybe Section 31 had provoked the war, or wanted to provoke the Klingon war, and as a consequence her parents died. Or maybe, here's a wacky theory, maybe her parents were Section 31 operatives. Who knows? That might be taking it a little bit too far into absurdity, but you never know, maybe. Now, I don't know if I just missed a scene, got distracted or something, but I don't think there was a scene after Michelle Yeoh's Giorgio says break Spock out and they have the fight. I don't actually recall seeing her actually break Spock out. The next time we see them, I think they're in the shuttle and they've escaped. And I kind of felt like there was a missing scene there. And probably, maybe there was at one point and it was cut due to time restraints, but they're on streaming. They shouldn't really have too many time restraints. So something felt like it should be there. Maybe it was and I just got distracted and missed it. I don't know. And then let's talk about the really exciting thing right at the end. Telos 4. That's going to delight any fan of the original series, surely. Yep, Burnham works out that Spock has been talking backwards the whole time due to his childhood dyslexia type condition, and that the numbers he's been reciting flipped backwards actually are coordinates, and she puts them into the computer and voila, it's Telos 4. Now, I'm guessing Burnham doesn't know the significance of Telos 4. Maybe you don't if you've never watched the original series, so very brief recap. In the unaired pilot of Star Trek from the 1960s, before William Shatner came on board, when the captain was going to be Captain Pike, the unaired pilot that was made, Spock and Pike go on the Enterprise to Telos 4, and there's a species there called the Tellarites. They are heavily not psychic, what's the word? Forgotten the word. Telepathic, that's the word I'm looking for. They are very telepathic and they can create whole worlds in people's minds and affect people. Anyway, then in the original series, we get an episode where Pike is in a wheelchair incapacitated. Spock hijacks the Enterprise to take him back to Telos 4 so that he can live a life in his mind via the help of the Tellarites. But by this point, Telos 4 is a no-go planet, according to Starfleet, on punishment of death, which seems ridiculously extreme, but we're led to assume that that's because of the events in the unaired pilot, which in the TOS episode, The Menagerie, we get flashbacks to. So they go into that planet, and this is is now sort of between those two things, because the events of the cage in the timeline have happened about 2 or 3 years earlier than this point. So Pike and Spock have been to Telos 4 about 2 or 3 years ago, and in like 10 years time, 7 years time, something like that, there's going to be this, that Spock's going to hijack the Enterprise and take him back there. So that's kind of the situation as it is now. It's very exciting. Why is he going there? I suspect maybe he thinks the Tellarites' advanced telepathic abilities can maybe help him and maybe cure him of the condition, the mental break he's gone through. So maybe that's why he's going there, or maybe they have some information that can help. Who knows? Anyway, what did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments below, and yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe and all that jazz. I've got more videos here for you if you got some time and you fancy watching them. there's another Star Trek review from one of the previous weeks, and that's something else that YouTube thinks you might like. Thank you for watching, and do join me next week for the review, and let's find out together what Tell Us 4 was like next week. I hope it's good.